Everyone stay back there. Now stay back.
Get someone to stop this thing.
I can handle it.
Humanity.
Hi, and welcome to Ward 13 with Jon Hopwood. My guests tonight, well, Garrett Walker of Granite State Organizing Project, and why don't you introduce the other guests? You're my co-host tonight.
Okay. Hi. Yeah, my name is Garrett Walker. I work with the Granite State Organizing Project. I coordinate their summer program, and these are a couple of my youth activists with the
You can wave now.
YOU Young Organizers United which is a high school age political activist group.
Right, I saw you guys, couple of you. I can't. Well, introduce yourselves to look
Well,
into the camera and.
my name is Anj. I'm a junior at Central High School, and I'm a current member of Young Organizers United.
My name is Zainab. I go to Central High School. I am a senior, and I am currently in YOU, Young Organizers United.
Now, were you spoke at the city hall?
Yeah,
that
Yeah,
night?
at the school board meeting.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. I was there too, but me running my mouth. I'm the notorious Jon Hopwood, and we also have on the telephone from Pebble Beach, Victoria Antonova. Are you there, Victoria? I guess not. She said she's wondering.
Yes, I am.
Oh, there you are. Yes, Vika, I met, I won't tell you how many years ago, but Vika is an immigrant from Russia. She's now a U.S. citizen. And are you both immigrants
I'm a refugee.
or refugee?
Yes, sir.
And
Refugee.
where from?
You can count me as refugee too.
Yeah, well, Russia, we were friendly when you came over with Russia. And I guess we technically still are, maybe. But,
I was born
Yeah,
in.
but I was chased by Persians.
no, none of your Russian antics now. Your Soviet. She was born in the old Soviet Union, although she's not old. But
I was born in a Tanzanian refugee camp.
oh,
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, now you know.
where in Tanzania or
Tanzania.
okay?
It was like a little village.
I'm old enough. It was Tanganyika and Zanzibar when I was born, but it was a British colony, right?
I don't know all of
I think
that.
they were originally German. I was at the Africa Studies Center at Boston University in the late 70s, early 80s. But, and?
And I was born in a small village in Kenya. I don't know the exact village, but that's all I know.
And you're a refugee from Kenya?
I guess, yeah.
Oh, okay. Because that's interesting. Another British Crown colony. And how long have you been here in the United States?
I've been here for 10 plus years.
Okay. So, as a high school student, you've grown up in the United States.
Yes, sir.
And
I think 13 plus years.
you too.
Yeah.
And Vika, how long have you been growing up in the United States?
Ask me again.
How long have you been growing up in the United States?
Last 16 years.
It's been that long? I've become an old man since I've known you. But, Vika, you're now a United States citizen, and are you U.S. citizens now?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Do you feel like you're treated like U.S. citizens?
No, sir.
Yeah, that's as Hamlet would say, aye, that's the rub. What brought you, before the Board of Aldermen? Well, we know about this. Do you want to talk about it, or you, Garrett?
These
Garrett
guys
wasn't
probably
there.
know more than I do.
Yeah.
Talk about the what?
Well, what brought you to the Board of Aldermen? There was some... Were you part of the original... Are you the original activists that tried to get student representation on the school board?
Yes.
Okay. And how many years did you work on that?
Last year, February. Last February was our first time working on
It was
this.
probably 2 years, but
2 years.
we've been advocating for like student voice and student rights for
Longer.
longer than I could remember. Before I joined the program, which was last year.
Okay,
Which was
so...
my freshman year.
Because I know in the state of New Hampshire, I guess, since like 1983, which
9 years.
surprised me. Is it 90s or...
No, we've been
No,
advocating.
I mean, you can have representation on a school board, student representation, since something like 1983.
Yeah.
Yet Manchester, there is no student representation right now on a school
No.
board, is there?
No, but there's an ad hoc committee planning for.
Right.
Yeah.
And what happened? Do you want to tell your story?
Oh, so this is what technically happened. We've been like advocating for student voice for a while, and we would meet up with, we met up with the alderman before, the superintendent, and we collected a lot of signatures on a petition to see if the student body was, aware of what was happening, what we were trying to do. And then we brought all the information that we had, because we did a lot of research. We brought it to the school board meetings. We talked to them about it, and we didn't really get responses back until this one meeting. We had a couple school board members on our side. Katie is one of them.
Right,
And,
Katie DeRocher's Ward
yeah.
11.
Yes, love her
And
so much. Yep.
Did Dave Scannell coming to the board make a difference?
David Scannell, I think one of the members was saying that he was a part of GSOP, but I just want to say that's not true.
Of course, it's not
It's
true.
not, it didn't mix. But he actually did help us out he did give us some input of how to, approach the school board without.
Of course, Dave Scannell, he works for the school district, if I remember. He was also the chief of staff of Mayor Robert Baines.
And he's a teacher, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that in certain quarters he was criticized. How you got, hopefully you're going to be on again on August 14th with Connie Van Houten, who's a school board member who supports you. Unfortunately, Connie's no longer on the school board.
Yeah.
But were you shocked when the vice chair of the school board named the members of the committee and you weren't on it? I mean, no one from the organization?
It was a smack in the
Yeah,
face.
we were
A
disappointed.
pushback. Technically going back to first base, but
Right, and later on, he also took Katie DeRocher's and Dave Scannell off the committee, right?
yeah.
So, what do you feel about the support of people in Manchester for you and your cause? Because I remember Mayor Joyce Craig expressed support for you, asked people to come out and support you. I was there that night. My friends, the Hamers, Gary and Heidi.
Yeah.
Most of the Democrats I know were at a fundraiser.
I remember.
They had ample time to go there. What do you feel about? Do you feel that you have the support of the community?
We do have the support, and I feel very blessed because most of our support are people in power. Technically, that's what it is, and it's just very nice. What do you think?
So you do think you do have support?
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
some support,
Some or a lot?
a lot,
Okay.
some
We have some
a good amount
support.
of support.
It is frustrating where people that will tell you they support you don't come out and
Yup.
they're not visible. And after I had a problem with a certain member of the city government who's no longer a part of it, and after I technically win the lawsuit, it's I was for you,
I
where
know.
were you in the almost year long.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
And you who are a member of the organization? Who is on the group now, on the planning committee now?
On the ad hoc committee, one of our friends, Charity Kabarish, is on it right now.
And was she chosen by the organization?
So technically, after we went to that school board meeting, I think the word got out to our principal at our school, Mr. Vaccarezza. But one of the school board members said the reason why we weren't chosen was because we never approached nobody, we never talked to anybody, which was false because prior to that, my friend Charity and Yar met up with our principal, talked to him about it. So for him to say that we didn't meet with anybody was just false.
Who said that you had met anybody? People on the school committee?
People on the school
Yeah.
board, yeah.
Any aldermen? You don't have to name names, 'cause,
I think it was Richard Gerard. I don't know if I can name
Rich
it. but
Gerard.
I think it was Richard Gerard.
Oh, that's a big shock to me. If you stay to the end of the program, you'll see I have a little tribute to Rich Gerard. I didn't think I didn't know you guys are going to be on. Naomi Andrews, who was Carol Shea Porter's former chief of staff, was going to come on. And I invited you out to meet her, but she was stuck up in the White Mountains. So. And I'm so happy to have you come on. And what do you made some statements at the board, that you didn't feel at that point in time
Feel welcomed?
welcome in
That was
Manchester?
orange that
Oh.
didn't felt welcomed.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I said I didn't feel welcome in the education system.
Oh, okay. Because I've never felt welcome in Manchester, but that's part of my personal problems.
Yeah.
Go back, I'd say 50 some odd years. I was gone for 32 years, and then I wound up back here. But
What made you feel unwelcome?
I just
And
feel like
what could we do to, what could we as a community, as a Manchester community, do to do better?
I just felt that the approach teachers took on specific type of students, because I myself, I don't come from a background of like wealth, I guess.
yes.
And Central's like mainly most like made up of like wealthy students, I guess. So I feel like me and the teachers, we don't connect at all, and it's like a lot of favoritism that goes on in our school, and there just isn't like people that I could talk to, except like one teacher.
How many you're Africans and African Americans. It's kind of like, I guess you could call me. When I was born, people would call themselves well, Jim O'Connell actually is an Irishman and an Irish American. Like my mother, I'm Irish, but you're an Irish American. How many African American teachers are there?
That I know of, we have one who's a my turn teacher. He's the only person that I feel comfortable into talking to.
Right, which is, and there are some people, and we won't name their names, you can shame them, think that that's not a legitimate feeling on the part, that to relate to a person of color or an African American. Well, I was in the Army. We have the problem now, like at the Manchester VA, where women that have suffered in certain ways were alienated. And Annie Custer, the congresswoman from CD2, they have their own entrance now in that. Because of a certain situation, it was good for them to be accommodated, if you can understand what I mean, because of what they went through. They wanted to minimize their exposure to men from the military or veterans from the background because of the traumas they experienced when they were in the Army.
Yeah.
And when I was in the Army, I actually handled a sexual assault, which was pretty awful. And so I could understand something like that, because at the time I was in the Army, oh my God, they treated the poor woman, just a girl, I think now, but I'm 58. I wasn't that old then. How badly they treated her. But see, what about multiculturalism? Maybe you can help me a little. I am in.
What do you mean? What about it?
Well, people are always talking about it, but when I came to New Hampshire after living in California, my God, it's like stepping back in time. I've often said, coming back to Manchester was like, it's 1946. My father, who ran off from Manchester many, many years ago, always would say Manchester's 25 years behind the times. But I come back and it's 1946, and Jackie Robinson, the first African American in baseball, is still up in Montreal. He hasn't made the major leagues yet.
Yeah.
Oh, Vika, did you hang up on us?
Whoops, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I personally think that multiculturalism is very important, and I think that that's definitely something that New Hampshire could strive to increase. I think we definitely could use more diversity, and pretty much everywhere. Like you say, you can really tell whenever if you travel to most places, you can see the difference between just the type of people that you see walking down the street. There's the percentage of certain different groups. You can really see that it's predominantly white in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. As opposed to Western Massachusetts and Boston.
Yeah, or like even if you visit. Like my family is originally from Dallas, Texas, and so especially if you go to like Houston or any of those areas, you can it's a very stark difference in just the just being able to see multiple cultures represented in within the overall barrier. I mean, not barrier. Umbrella, I guess. The overall umbrella of the culture and the types of people who you interact with. You can definitely see the difference when there's more diversity.
Well, one of the things is that the wars that were fought over 50 years about inclusion, about respect, I come back here, it's like starting from scratch or something, which might be demographics or that.
Yeah.
But you'd think that people that grew up 55 miles from Boston, which went through a brutal racial problem in the 60s and 70s, might learn a little something. But it is important to have teachers that are African American, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't see how that's so hard to understand.
Not just African American, like, Latinos, any minorities.
I think I really just think, especially in a school setting, I think that having a variety of experiences definitely brings a lot to the table. And I think that everyone in the classroom, including the teacher, gains a lot from just seeing people who have different experiences than you do, and learning alongside people who have different experiences than you do. And I don't even just mean with regards to race. I also mean with regards to, economic class and gender and anything else that you could think of. I think just having as many different viewpoints and different histories in a classroom is important. That's part of why I go to school for social studies education. I go to SNHU. SNU, yeah, and
the old New Hampshire College.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that I strive to bring into my hope to strive to bring into my classrooms in the future when I do teach. Just a wide variety of ideas and opinions and histories.
Oops. Vika, are you still there? I'm going to hang up on Vika for now. I'll send her a message.
Sorry, Vika.
No. We were going to talk about something really wild, but that was from last week. It's about the Amazon and all sorts of things. But I'll send her a message. But how is the hiring going on in Manchester? Well, you have to be commended for fighting for this. Do you think when is there going to be a real when is the committee going to be formed? When will there be the student on the student body?
So the committee met up like 2 times this month, I think. Once a month? Yeah, they meet up once a month, but I don't know when the official. I don't know any of those details.
So you don't know any of the progress?
No, nobody reaches back to us.
I think right now it's at a very, from my understanding at least, it's very early on in the process. They're still trying to figure out how, how that's even going to be done. It's I was thinking actually when we were talking.
How hard is it to be done? In Litchfield, New Hampshire, they've had one for 20 years. I've met the kid.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Litchfield. My family was from Litchfield for. I can take you to the Litchfield Historical Society. You can see the warrant that my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, who I'm related to both Winston Churchill and Princess Diana through. We're talking about 19. To go get the militia to go fight the French and the Indians. There's no shilly-shallying about that.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
But the warrant, it's from 1740, King George's War, which is a forgotten war.
Yeah. Wow.
Ethnic cleansing in America. I'm sorry if I'm offending you, but
Yeah, no.
Americans. I've watched. I'm old enough. The battle to come to terms with U.S. history.
Yeah.
And
that's actually one thing that we want to strive to encourage is a more honest telling of history. and including more history of marginalized people into the Manchester curriculum.
Wasn't that in the curriculum already?
Only a little bit.
Jesus, I remember, well, we won't get to me. So, are you positive
Positive.
about the future?
I'm very positive. If there's more people like us willing to speak out, then I'm very positive.
And you have support in the school system itself, amongst the student body?
With the student body, I'm not sure. Probably not.
Probably not.
But
Really? Why do you think that is? A lack of, not a leadership of you, but of...
the reason why I feel like we don't have enough, like a lot of student body support is because we're speaking out against issues that half of the students, they don't face. They don't go through it. So it's just like, I'm not going through this, so why should I even care? And the people who actually are going through it are either like they don't speak English, or
Right.
they're just like they don't want to admit that
It's happening to them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Victim, the silence of the
Yeah.
victim. Yeah. James Baldwin wrote a book about Atlanta, the child murders, because it was African-American murderer and African-American children. Even though it was an African-American majority city, people just ignored it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What book is that? I haven't heard of that one before.
I'll send you the link.
Yeah. I'm a
But,
big fan of James Baldwin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was just reading something again. But, so the teachers, well, they, aren't they taking an active role in promoting this? Or promoting, like, let's come into the 21st century?
No, I don't think so. The only teachers that I've probably seen was my old guidance counselor from middle school and my old principal from middle school. Those are the only like, teachers I see actually speaking or helping us on our side.
Yet you didn't, it didn't defeat you.
Mm-mm.
Where do you draw your strength from?
Probably my father.
I get mine from the group.
Do we have anything? I'm just, it just it just flabbergasts me to think that, it's kind of shocking what you're telling me. Not that I'm surprised, but it's still a shock.
Is there any behavior you guys would like to see out of your teachers and also, I guess, your peers as well? Is there any way that they could help you?
I want them to like open their ears. Actually,
I'll be right back.
We continue.
Yeah.
I want them to open their ears to speak up technically. Really get involved and just try to reach out to see if what we're doing interests them. That's what I want.
Yeah.
What about you, Zainab?
Do you want to come on? Would you like to come on?
I thought this was
come
live.
on.
It is.
Yeah, we're live. Yeah, I'm flabbergasted for the first time in my life. Maybe we should have kept Jim O'Connor around. We called Jim the walking filibuster. Matt Connerton, who used to have the show after me, until he moved to the radio, once we had Jim on, because he got the show in front of me, he said, John, I never thought in my entire life, I'd meet somebody that could out-talk you. Which, but right now, words aren't quite coming. What do you plan for the future?
Okay.
Are you positive? You said you're both positive about the future.
Yeah, we're both positive about the future.
Do you feel that you're going to have to leave New Hampshire?
Yes. Yes, I do.
I don't think I'm going to leave New Hampshire because I'm staying.
She's staying. I'm leaving.
Safest city in the country, so I think I'm staying.
It is?
It's like the fifth, I guess. I think
I
Safe
know.
for her.
it's safe for me. So, and I grew up here. I'm used to it here. I feel like I'm gonna stay here.
You're a Manchesterite. Where are you thinking of going?
Somewhere far away from New Hampshire. That's
Is
what I'm
Boston-
thinking.
Is Boston far enough away?
Nope. Farther. Probably California.
California, if you can afford it.
If I can afford it,
I
yeah.
was just talking to Vika. We were talking about that. I used to live in Carmel by the Sea, on a beach, in a shack, five blocks from the beach. Oh, those were the days. Now I can't even afford to go to a Fisher Cats game. Are you both planning on going to university? Go on to university?
I'm going to start off with community college my first 2 years, then I'm going to transfer to a university.
That's what I did.
Yeah, I heard that saves a lot of money.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
true.
So that's what I'm on.
What about you?
Probably go to community service for like 2 years and then transfer to a university.
What's community service?
I mean, community college.
Oh, okay.
Forget service, college.
Oh, you could join the military.
Ooh, never.
Air Force.
Ooh, I'm scared of planes.
Oh, I was in the Army. I'm still paying the price after 30 some odd years. But, Garrett, how did you get with GSOP?
I just applied for the job. I was looking for a job. I've done some like light community service and community volunteering in my past. I guess I just got to the point where I felt that if I wanted to do anything more for the world, I would need I could just need more support, I guess. You know, not say that, I mean, I don't mean support in that to say that the people who I've worked with in the past haven't been supporting. It's just that you know, like when it's what people what volunteers you can scrounge together in order to, you know, fix up a park or that type of thing. That's nice and all, but I guess I just felt like I wanted to get into I guess professional would be the term I'm looking for, a more professional setting where, you know, and with an organization that has already pretty established ties with, you know, the power structures and all that kind of thing. And so that's what got me looking into jobs in this field.
Now, how did you hook up with you?
I mean, if I'm being honest, it was one of a couple of jobs that I've applied to, and this is the one that seemed like the best fit.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I hope to go into teaching, and so I was excited to be able to work with high school age students. I felt like it was a good way of kind of getting my feet wet, and it's not like a teaching position, but it is similar type of mentorship to high school age students. So
Okay.
yeah.
Geez, high school. I would think. Wow, it's been a long time since I've been in school. I mean, high school. Do you like high school?
No.
To be honest,
God, I
no.
hated it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
As much as I would like to teach in a high school, I don't think I would. The only thing I would maybe do if I could go back to high school is do my homework more often. My work ethic was a little spotty in high school, so I'm sure my grade point average and my scholarships would be better if I had done more work when I was in high school.
Hey, the difference between college and high school. Oh my God, I hated high school. In America, United States, they just keep you a child forever, you know? Like 16, you become an adult in Europe. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, those last 2 years, and you know, my freshman and sophomore year. Well, when I wasn't in those days, you know, when you're a freshman male and I stopped. Little did I know I'd already stopped growing in the 8th grade. You go freshman year, and all these boys are bigger than you, and you had to learn the routes, like back at West High, how to run away, pretty, you know, and be quick. They didn't drug anybody then. Well, maybe they did themselves, but not from the school administration. And then sophomore year was fun. Then junior year, oh my God. But I had some great teachers. Well, my favorite teacher was Joseph Sullivan, who won the first McAuliffe Award. He was a writing teacher. Someday, hopefully, they'll name something after him. He was at West High School. And thank God for Joe. You know, there's a few teachers that can help you keep your sanity and relate to the world. But it seems, do you have at least a couple, right? That
I have a
help
middle
you?
school teacher, but other than that, not in high school.
What happens when you go and when you were younger and tried to talk? Were you able to talk about this?
When I was younger, in my elementary school, it was very diverse, Beach Street School.
Okay,
So,
for Beach Street School,
yeah,
of
like
course.
all my peers, friends, all the teachers just understood where we were coming from, so they had a very like good approach, especially because we were young. And in middle school, I could say I had like a good support system in the teachers too, and the principal too was just so amazing. And
What was the principal's name?
Back
Mr.
is it?
Mr. Krantz?
Oh, Mr. Krantz.
Okay.
Mr. Krantz.
And where is he now? Is he still there?
Yeah, he's still there.
Okay.
He also spoke on the school board.
Yeah, he
Supporting
was
us.
there.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. So, and Miss Mosley, she
The
was
guidance
my
counselor.
guidance counselor. She was very,
Supportive.
yeah.
You know, just going back to that, you know, I came out of, at West High School, I was a class of 77, there were two African-American girls, and they were both the daughters of the guy who won the Buick dealership, so they were wealthier than any of us, you know, white kids from the West Side. We called each other frogs, and, you know, there was all the ethnic groups and rivalries, which were ridiculous, because, like, where I grew up on the West Side, when I was a kid, the Irish Catholic had their own churches and their own parochial school system, and the French Canadian kids had their own churches and public school systems, and everybody had all this antagonism towards each other. Yet everybody had intermarried by then.
It's interesting that they even had their own, like, K through 12, the French Canadians would have their own school, or was it like...
Well, you'd get to go to 8th grade, and if you couldn't speak French, they'd put you onto the public school system.
Interesting.
You had to speak French. I grew up in a French-speaking neighborhood. Not that it helped my French much. My brother is a funny one. He wouldn't have got through high school. He was a juvenile delinquent. I don't know if they have that now. Only because they gave him a speeding ticket on the bridge over the Kelly Falls Bridge from West High School. Manchester used to be a very unique place. They started building a bridge on the west side up near Penardville, Goffstown. Then they found out they didn't have the land and they couldn't buy it, so they take a L and start building it the other way. Then they never maintained it, so it collapsed. But
It was in the Guinness Book of World Records. It was the only bridge that had a curve.
you know, Paul, I have some pictures my father took, if I can ever find them, where he took it just before they demolished it. He took a picture of the bridge because he grew up on the west side himself. But
It's the only bridge in the world that wasn't straight.
yeah,
It had a curve.
because there's the postcard I have at the end of my intro that's postcards, and there it is. Kelly Falls Bridge. We grew up, they used to have a powerhouse with a big smokestack that was abandoned. It was flooded, and that's where we'd play.
I'll try to find it and put it in the background.
Yeah, it's such a great, it's just this crazy world. And everybody'd say, well, that's French, you know, anything, because they were like the last ethnic group in, so they were the lowest on the totem pole. And, you know, they were resented because, well, I'm English, Scotch, Irish, Scotch-Irish, and French-Canadian. I didn't find out I was French-Canadian until I was much older because my mother would never admit that she was French-Canadian. You know, some things never change, you know.
That's funny, actually, that you say that, because I feel like now I know a lot of French-Canadian people. Like, I feel like I would almost assume that, and I guess I can't say that every single one of my, like, white friends is French-Canadian, at least, but,
None of that Franco-American stuff.
I can definitely think of like a pretty decent chunk of the friend group that I had in high school. A lot of them were French Canadians. I wonder, and I went to Central too, so I didn't even grow up on the west side. So it's funny that you say that they were kind of looked down upon.
Well, that's because of just the crazy ethnic rivalries. And but what was crazy is when you realize, well, you know, this guy is Irish, and he hates the French Canadians, And he's married to a French Canadian. His kids are half French Canadian. And then my mother would never admit she was part French Canadian until she was like in her 70s. We were at a Canadian-themed restaurant with a talking moose. And I can't tell you what she said when she finally admitted it. And Grace Metalius, who wrote Peyton Place, the biggest selling novel of its time in the 50s. It's all about how people, a girl was raped and then murders her father, and everybody pretends that the rape, that she was being raped by the father never occurred. It was a bestseller and a couple movies and a big TV series in the 60s. And Grace Metalius, my parents knew her, and my father said, when I told her that she was French, he says, "What do you mean, Grace, she was French-Canadian?" Because George, who she married, was Greek. But see, all these different, when I grew up, they called them urban ethnics, you know, white people, well, Greeks, this, that, and the other thing. And there were all these rivalries and stuff. Tommy Castiantonis, he started out in the West Side. Then he was an alderman from 8. I think he was born in Greece, came here, and then went back to Greece, or was born here. But he told me, John, they used to have, when they voted for state reps, you know, you voted for 8 people. He says, my brother and I, who was also a state rep, George, we would look at the voting rolls, and none of those French Canadians would vote for a Greek name. It's so funny. That's how I grew up, the different rivalries.
That's funny.
And because you're different or speak a different language, rather than thinking, well, French is great. But see, my brother was a juvenile delinquent. How he got through high school was just in the 70s. You know, anybody could get through at that point. It was liberal, progressive time. And he joined the Air Force and straightened his life out. But he tells me years later, because he'd been to Africa so many times, because he'd done so well in the Air Force. Wherever my brother went to Africa, 6 months later there was a coup. Coup d'etat. Mostly West Africa.
I wonder what that says about your brother.
Well, he knew that they were coming. That's the thing. He was an expert in transportation and other things. He says, "Oh, you know, remember when our father?" Because this is what my father told me. John, don't learn French in high school. Learn Spanish. It's a language of the future. Because he'd been up to California, and, you know, since in the war and everything. And my brother says, "You know, Dad was full of it. You know, he sang that. Oh, there's the bridge.
Oh yeah.
With the curve." That was my childhood playground. Yeah. There's the old powerhouse that was decayed. When they blew it up with dynamite, they wouldn't tell anybody when they were going to do it, so we wouldn't go down and watch. That was disappointing to miss the dynamiting. We'll get into that. My brother says to me years later, after being in Chad and all these places, "Why did Dad talk us out of going to French?" He says, "What are you talking about? You barely got through high school." It was me he said it to. But once again, as an American, if he had learned his French, because it's the lingua franca in many parts of France. But, you know, this is America. History just repeats itself over and over again. People are mean to the French Canadians, and then they're mad about immigrants themselves, and that's what... but... This is America, and there is the possibility of progress. I hope.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that, like, that type of thing. I feel like they picked different people to aim that at. No one stopped doing that. They just moved it from. Yeah, it's weird how people need some type of other in order to. Yeah. Just like you pick someone to bully up, you pick a group of people to bully up on. And
when you grow up in a place that's like white and working class, geez, you know, talk about some real poor people in Manchester. You pick on each other, and the class system.
Yeah.
America always says it's a classless society, which isn't true. But
I wonder if you could look at any type of study that would point out that, like we were saying about how predominantly white Manchester and New Hampshire in general is. I wonder if you could look at a study and say if, like, in other areas where there's more racial diversity, if there's less infighting or more infighting between ethnics.
Well, I don't know, because white is also a social construct, and it's also an abstraction. Yeah. I've never thought of you rarely would find somebody from New Hampshire thinking himself white.
Yeah.
And when you talk about white privilege, my father joined the Navy at 17 in 1943. Before he started really working at 12, he had to go, before he went off to high school, he had to thread a bobbin in one of these mills. He said it was the worst job he ever had. And he was actually well off because his father had a job and his grandfather was actually well off. But, but he said going off to World War II was a step up. Really? So, when you talk to people that come out of, white people that come out of poverty, when you talk about white privilege, it's not something that's going to resonate. Yeah. Because, geez,
I think
people have come up the hard. So much of racism, though, is economically based. Like I said, the last group in of all the different white people. So we start out with the English are in those mills, men, and they want higher wages. So they bring the girls in, they get higher wages. They bring the Irish in, they go on strike. They bring the French Canadians. They had a train. I have all the books about that, and there's strikes, people tearing each other, people hating each other over. The funny thing is about a French Canadian and an Irishman. The French that settled Quebec are Celts from the Celtic part of it. They're not really different at all. It's just like my mother was Irish and a Catholic. My father's like really Scot. He looks just like an Irishman, but he's a Protestant. There's no genetic difference between the two. There's a religion, and because you're part of a Protestant in the English island, you have a higher social status. Yeah. But you have a lower social status than the aristocrats. So it's just this constant wave. But America's always reinvented itself. Think about how the Jews, when they came to America, how they were treated, and then they evolve. After facing brutal, they start out in the factories too in New York.
One thing that I've read that really kind of puts into perspective white privilege for me is that the phrasing that it said was something along the lines of like, just because white privilege doesn't mean that you haven't had any hardship. Doesn't mean that you can't come from a lower economic class and that you struggled in that way. It just means that your struggle wasn't because of your race. This is it's a couple specific struggles that you maybe have missed.
You can't say that to somebody who's French Canadian who's discriminated against, or Irish, because like JFK, when he became president, I remember John F. Kennedy alive.
John, I'm sorry, could you please have your co-host put his mic closer to him?
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, we're wandering, but this will be good for the next time you're on.
Thank you.
Like John F. Kennedy says, his father was the equivalent of billionaire. His father, they have no Irishmen and dogs. So this stuff has to be discussed, and it has to be discussed in a way where people can understand one another. Yeah. My father, I wanted to marry a certain person. I won't say who she is, but she's not on the phone right now. And I remember my father telling me, because I said, well, you can come live with us. And he said, John, when I was in World War II, after Hitler's defeated, and they're showing them the actual movies from the death camps and stuff, and he said they were also getting us ready to go to war with Russia. Russians were subhuman, and it's so. And then the Japanese. My father was in the Pacific, and there needs to be a real discussion, an open discussion, and not can't. Because like one of the things you say about white privilege, my brother was racially profiled in 1979 in Tennessee because he was driving a 10-year-old Cadillac. He had long blonde hair, so he looked like some cracker, or there's other names, or redneck. That would be the people that at the time were moving drugs, and they put a .357 Magnum to his head. Wow! And it's like, the white Southerners are rebels are a tough crowd, and they're all armed. I could tell you some stories about the South, because my father lived there for many, Atlanta and place, Alabama, but the idea that you need to actually see, I tried to propose to people, we have a Human Rights Commission. They've got one in Lewiston, Maine, which has had trouble worse than Manchester has ever had because of that idiot mayor they have in Lewiston. Yeah, he was. And whatever I'd say about Ted Getz, I've never said he was a racist or anything. Okay. Yeah. Remember what Joe Keller Lavassa said? He doesn't like anybody. That sounds like our
Oh yeah,
dad.
the equal
Yeah, sees an
opportunity
equal.
haters.
Yeah, he just doesn't like anybody. Because I heard stories, and it's like, but it's everybody. Boom, 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 boom. You're up. It goes right through. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, whenever anyone's like, "Oh, I'm an equal opportunity hater," I'm like, maybe you should be a nicer person. An equal opportunity nice person. That's what you should be.
Well, it's true, because I'm sure he didn't. He probably came up. Greeks were discriminated against, and he's also half Arab, and
Oh, yeah.
might be Lebanese, and they were Roman Catholics, but still, you're an Arab,
Yeah.
or you're a Greek. So remember, Greeks were on the other side of the river, and they were the exotic people. Even though I grew up with Greek kids.
Yeah, I live right around the corner from the Greek Orthodox Church, actually.
Oh yeah, we used to call it the Onion Church.
That's funny.
Because we had Albanians, like my childhood friend. There's so many different ethnic groups in Manchester. The West Side, the Toleys were Albanians. They had on the Crescent, the famous Crescent building, which is gone now. Paul probably has a photograph of that on Granite Square. They were Albanians, but they went to the Greek Orthodox Church. I'll never forget. I was dating an Armenian. And my mother said, "Does that mean your children are going to be black?" What do you mean? And I mentioned the lawyer, my father's lawyer. Where's
weird.
Armenian here? My mother was kind of funny, let's put it that way. And then I said she was Orthodox, meaning Eastern Orthodox. She says, "Does that mean the kids are going to be Jewish?" Poor Ma.
Poor
She was
Ma.
actually very intelligent, but... Hey, she came from the East Side, Central High, mixed marriage, Irish Catholic, and marries this wild, Scotch-Irish wasp Protestant. We made her go to the Protestant. I didn't know she was a Catholic. I didn't know my mother was Catholic, but it was like many years later.
That's funny. How were you? You were raised Protestant then?
Yeah.
Okay.
But also my guru's on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. But that's another
Okay.
story.
I mean, hey, fair.
Self-realization fellowship. But no, when I went to college in Boston, I didn't fit in there either, because it was like one of 4 Protestants in the entire city of Manchester, particularly on the west side. Although there were a few Germans there, and go down there. I'm not Irish because I'm not Catholic, and I'm not a WASP because I didn't go to the right schools. I didn't go to a St. Paul's or Phillips Exeter Academy.
Oh, yeah.
The class system there too. But I bring that up. We only got about 3 minutes. Is the cultural thing, because I didn't fit in with the Irish. Because I didn't go to the Catholic Church, and I don't have that consciousness. And then I have friends like my friend Tom, who's often on the show. He was what my mother would call a rich, B-I-T-C-H. Well, that was actually, and he came from upper class Wasdom. He grew up with Linda McCartney's kid brother. But so how can I relate to a kid they go learn French in Paris in the summer? Have the apartment that their maid has in New York City, which is something I could never think of affording myself. But I think that I'm glad you came on to get used to this, because
Yeah.
I hope you'll be on with Connie, and you can talk more, because there's got to be a dialogue. I've raised the idea. We have to have a human rights commission. We have to have the dialogue come up. Is there anything you'd like to say? We got 2 minutes to close up. There's the camera. You look at the camera and say what you want to say to the city of Manchester.
Well, in the future, YOU is going to be working on a very big project, and I want everybody to stay tuned and
Support.
support.
Okay. Do you think that Mayor Joyce Craig is a help?
I think so.
Yeah.
He's a help.
Yeah.
Really big help.
I think I'm not going to put down Mayor Gatsis, because he is who he is, and we don't know where he came from. He might have felt a lot of pain too when he was growing up, but from the generation you ball it all up, and but I think there is a change, and thanks for coming on, because sometimes I feel like I won't. My karma, I can't. So.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, I'll just listen to George Harrison, one of the, That's why George Harrison, but never mind. Someday, when I'm back, after you can come on again. I'm taking a month off, so.
Vacation?
You can call it that.
Okay.
Hey, thanks a lot, and they'll be on again in 2 weeks. God knows what's going to be on. Oh, Garth Carvo will be on next week. I hope he shows up. And thank you, Vika. We'll play the Amazon video another time. But thanks.
Thank you for
Anytime.
having us.
Oh yeah.
Until next time.
All right.
I know what boys like. I know what guys want. I know what boys like. Boys like. Boys like me. Look at that boy. Isn't he sweet? Wouldn't you think my obsession's complete?
All